The state of the welterweight division is in an interesting place, as Belal just captured the welterweight champion from Leon Edwards. And if you ask me, this win changes the entire welterweight landscape for better, because Leon barely ever defended the belt, and Belal said that he wants to be active. And there's a lot of killers in the welterweight division, and as of right now, we do not have a clear number one contender. Right now, we have 4 opponents to choose from, and specifically, I'm talking about the UFC to choose. Obviously, we don't have a say, but some people were suggesting JDM, and I think I would have been down for that just because he beat Gilbert Burns, and that's a good win. And I think that would have been enough for JDM to get a title shot, in my opinion. But from my understanding, I believe he got injured, and I believe that he said that he wasn't going to be able to come back until sometime of the beginning of the next year. So he's totally out of the picture, and I've seen some folks suggesting Kamaru Usman as the top choice to fight Belal, since he's probably the second best welterweight ever. And now that Leon Edwards isn't the champ anymore, it's easier for Usman to get another title shot, especially since Edwards beat him twice. Now, I know people are saying that he's on a 3-fight losing streak and you can't give him a title opportunity, and I totally agree on that. But let's not forget, we haven't seen something similar like that before. Just like in 2020 when Yoel Romero got a title shot against Izzy, even though he was on a 2-fight losing streak. And the same thing happened with Jose Aldo, who also got a title opportunity that same year despite losing his 2 fights beforehand. I'm just saying it's possible that the UFC might give Usman a title shot. It's not the worst idea, but I don't really want to see it happen. It didn't feel right back in 2020, and it doesn't feel right now. So I'm crossing my fingers that that doesn't really happen. And I even seen some people suggesting Leon Edwards. And if you ask me, he doesn't deserve an immediate rematch. The dude just got dominated, and he wasn't a long reigning champion. So the only person it should be is Shavkat Rakhmonov. And look, I know what you guys are going to say. The dude hasn't been active since, last December? And he struggled to beat Wonderboy, who people really don't consider a top contender anymore and past his prime. And look, I get that. But this is the thing though. People in this division have been dodging him just like they did with Islam, because they know he's a real problem. He's great everywhere and he's very dangerous. There's a reason why Wonderboy didn't really want to fight him for the longest time. He's been stuck for a while looking for a fight because nobody in the top 10 wants to take him on. The only guy who was willing to fight him was JDM, but that fight isn't happening anytime soon because JDM got injured. Anyways, in my opinion, he's the only matchup that makes sense. It has to be Shavkat, okay? I think it's pretty valid. I mean, the dude is 18-0. He has defeated 3 top 15 contenders like Neil Magny, Jeff Neal, and now Wonderboy. And all of his 18 wins are finishes. That sounds pretty impressive to me and pretty unheard of. I suggest we go with Shavkat versus Belal and schedule it for Abu Dhabi in October. It would be historic as the first ever main event between 2 Muslim fighters. Sounds good, am I right? And I do think this fight will happen before the year is over, mainly because Belal has repeatedly discussed being very active as champ, so there won't be any resistance. I mainly think it's because he's 36-year-old, man. He is going to want to get all those pay-per-view paydays in a quick way before he falls off, and he wants to make a great legacy. Now, the more I think about it, this matchup is extremely interesting because I actually have a hard time believing who is going to win, because Belal Muhammad's boxing looked very good in his last fight, especially with his wrestling, and you put that against Shavkat, who's dangerous on the feet. His boxing is good when it comes to his hands, but not as much for his head movement because it isn't the greatest, and he has the grappling aspect with submission, so yeah, Shavkat is very deadly. But if I had to put an early prediction, I believe Shavkat would win. I think Shavkat would meet Belal in the middle and want to throw hands with the dude. He doesn't have the same holes as Leon Edwards, where he can't handle pressure, as we saw in Shavkat's fight with Jeff Neal. He has that dog in him. He could have chose to fight Jeff Neal in the distance, in range, but no, he wanted to beat him up in his own game. And I could see him doing the same thing to Belal too. And Belal Muhammad doesn't have any type of crazy power. I mean, the only person he ever TKO'd was Sean Brady. And I mean, he also rocked Leon Edwards, but going back to the Sean Brady thing, he was landing a shitload of combinations. I will give Belal that. But we all know that Jeff Neal hits like a truck, and Shavkat took all of that punishment and just came back, outboxed Jeff Neal, and yeah, he threw a little bit of kicks in there, and he beat Neal in his own game and beat him up with a modified bulldog choke. The dude is really good everywhere, and that's why he's the boogeyman of the welterweight division. And I think Belal isn't just gonna try to shoot and take Shavkat down. The dude's BJJ is really good. He's not gonna replicate the same game plan that he did to Leon Edwards. He only did that because he knew that Edwards couldn't handle pressure. And the fact that Leon doesn't really do any submissions made it easier for Belal to take Leon down. But with Shavkat, you want to really choose your takedowns wisely because he has that guillotine in his arsenal and tons of submissions. And look, if Belal somehow pulls off a win, he deserves a lot of respect, man. The only way I see him winning this fight is probably with his boxing, because Shavkat doesn't have the best head movement. He did make some adjustments in the second round of his fight with Jeff Neal, but still, I think the boxing is Belal's best shot of winning, because clinching or grappling with Shavkat isn't a good idea either, especially in the clinch. He's dangerous with his knees, the elbows, and he has a lot of trips in his arsenal as well. Not to mention that Shavkat is huge for that weight class, and when he's on top of you, it's hard to get him off because of his size and how huge he is in that weight class. He normally doesn't go for ground and pound, so Belal could try to wiggle himself out there. Like I mentioned earlier, Shavkat has a lot of submissions in his arsenal, so Belal really has to choose his time wisely to get back up on his feet. And look, man, I believe Shavkat would beat the current champ, perhaps even more dominantly than he would have beaten Leon. Belal's journey to the title has been grueling, and sometimes fighters get burnt out after reaching their ultimate goal. Now, I'm not saying that Belal will, but it's something to consider. On the other hand, Shavkat is eager for his title shot and mentally tough. Unlike Leon, Shavkat is a true finisher. While Belal prefers to control on the ground, Shavkat is slick with his BJJ and always looks for submissions. Even if the grappling is even, I still see Shavkat winning, maybe going to the scorecards for the very first time, but still a dominant victory for the Nomad. I just think stylistically it's a tailor-made matchup for Shavkat. The only guy I truly see beating him is JDM. JDM is an amazing boxer and he can grapple too. But I will add, if Belal can get it done somehow, then I think you have to say that Belal is the greatest of all time when it comes to the welterweight division, because his resume would just look insane at that point. I don't know, man. This dude was able to take out Gilbert Burns and Leon. This dude has freaking plot armor, bro. He has the power of Allah, and maybe he can't just lose. That's how good this dude is. But even with all that, I still have to go with Shavkat. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below if you agree with me or not. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like always, guys, I'll see you guys on my next one.